I was looking at something that was in the news the past week, and it was dealing with Barack Obama and two appearances he made, one at Arizona State University and one at Notre Dame. The first one I want to kind of talk about was the controversy, which a lot of people were upset about, and I thought it was disrespectful, but then, you know, that's just my opinion. Arizona State University invited Obama, and he came, and he actually made light of this particular situation, and what he made light of was that they didn't give him an honorary degree. Now, the question was that people say if a president comes to a university, most presidents get an honorary degree. Do you think it was disrespectful, or do you think it's much ado about nothing?
Well, I think it was disrespectful only because I think if this is the norm and there are very few people who have accomplished what he has accomplished, which is the highest office in you know, the in America, I think that they need to establish the fact that it is a slight of sorts. And I'm not sure how many other people have received honorary degrees, but I'm sure if you went down the list that they would probably have to justify why they wouldn't give it to the President of the United States and they'd give it to any of the other individuals that were there.
You know, I agree with Lorie. I do think it's a slight in a small way, but I think he handled it very well. I think one of the issues here, and of course he's very well educated, of course went to, you know, Harvard Law, and has an exemplary record of academic standards. But I think most importantly, he's the President of the United States of America, which is one of the greatest achievements, you know, in our society. So for them not to recognize that doesn't really make much sense. However, of course, Arizona is John McCain's home state.
Interesting.
And I'm not sure if he was an alum of that university or not, but I'm sure there were some ties to him. And that might have played a role in it. And also it's a strong Republican area, so that might have been a part of that slight.
Well, again, and we were laughing about it in my office, and I said, you know, what he should have said to the board of directors that made the decision was, how many people are president? Raise your hand. Okay, so if you haven't done that, you know, then you can, when you've done that, you can talk. Otherwise, you know, the logic being that he was still young and he still had time to do even greater things, but most people, you know, when you tell kids when they grow up, what do they say? They grow up to be president, and that's a thing of importance. So, I mean, what does that say about their thinking? Really, I find it weird, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he handled it very well because, you know, he doesn't need their honorary degree, you know, so to still show up and speak and, you know, kind of brush it off as insignificant as it technically is, you know, is the bigger man. But it also is something that needs to be looked at because things of this nature do happen quite often to people from our cultural group. And I think that it needs to be said just so that other people are aware that it is an issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely feel it might be a little discriminatory. You know, I was going to, in fact, what Lorie said there with respect to that. I mean, one could, you know, have delved into it a little closer. One could definitely see some issues with some discrimination, you know, hints there with respect to that issue.
Well, and so now we're going to move on to another particular issue. Dante, I'm going to kind of let you bring us into that particular topic, talking about what happened in Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame was very interesting.
Yes. The Notre Dame situation, of course, very similar. He did obviously, though, get the honorary degree and was very pleased behind that. But because Notre Dame is a very religious, invested college, of course, it's a Catholic university with various Catholic principles. So a lot of the students that attend that university, a lot of the supporters, support it because of its strong Catholic ties. And so there was issue with respect to him and his stance on abortion. And so there was a lot of uproar, and there were protesters who wanted to disrupt the ceremony. However, it wasn't very disruptive. They did, I think, give them a space outside somewhere to have their protest. But he did come. He was well received by the university, and he gave a very good speech where he talked about meeting in the common ground. And I think one of the things that I like about him is he always understands the importance of, even though I may not agree with you on certain areas, there are some things that at some point we can't agree on. So I definitely think that's important. But how important really is the abortion issue to, you know, people that may not be Christian? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, I think that's an excellent question, and I don't know the answer because, you know, we always had this perception that the United States is a Christian country, and so therefore, especially when you have the religious right pushing a lot of these particular issues and topics, that you would think that other people would be neutral or at least indifferent to it. But now that they brought out, what did they even have? Who else was there? The woman from Roe versus Wade. She was at the particular event also, and she's now an anti-abortion person or whatever. I mean, it's very difficult, and I think the thing that he said about it, I think was very interesting, that abortion is a personal issue.
Right.
And so therefore, I mean, even though, you know, people have these strong feelings. I mean, it's not something that people come to very lightly. And, you know, we shouldn't diminish the anguish and the pain that people go through when they make that type of decision.
Yeah, and you know, I respect the right of individuals, you know, to protest the fact that they may be anti-abortion, etc. But we also have to look at the fact that when people call individuals to speak at their events of any kind, they're calling them for their intelligence, for their status, you know, for their stature in society. And we have to recognize that we're not going to agree with everything someone says just because they are there for a specific reason. I mean, we have Supreme Court justices that you agree with some of the decisions and not others. You know, there are professors, there are individuals, politicians, etc., from all walks of life that you're never going to be in agreement on all of the topics.